broken system, chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street. Red and blue, colors pouring from the sky. Debates turn to anger, oh, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rotting greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need. Whispering conspiracies, drowning in their lies. Echoes of freedom, lost in cries. Spin the wheel of fate, let's see who rise. But this game will bleed you dry. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
Good morning and welcome to the bullpen. So new intro because the UFC didn't like us using their that video. So now we got a lot of Trump dancing, and we'll cut that down a little bit and add some other stuff into it. But I had to throw it together late last night after bourbon and boarding. But yeah, we had a busy week, and we're gonna deep dive into a few things. Pete Hegseth, maybe look at the Daniel Penny case, the pardons, of course, the United Health CEO, and Syria. All stuff taking place in the last week. And with me, as always, is the co-host, Little Chad. How are you doing? Except it's showing you offline. Let's try to fix that. Chad, you there? All right. Well, we will see if we can get that fixed real quick. We're going to go into Pete Hegseth first, I think, today. Let me see if I can get Chad fixed so that we can do that.
Can you hear me now? Is it working?
I can. I can hear you.
Yeah, I ended up just like restarting the browser, as EV Mux does sometimes, where that's the only solution to get things back to normal.
Actually, I think we had the old link set up in the scene, so you were live backstage, but it wasn't the version of you that was on screen. It's weird.
Well, weird.
So, how was your week, sir?
Oh, it was pretty good. I've been enjoying what I've been seeing. I get mean tweets, but no wars again, so that's always good.
Yep.
We got Trump going strong to support our boy Hegseth, which I think, as you put in the title, is the red line on his appointments. He needs to stop it here, no further.
Yeah, The Senate rhinos have taken their sacrifice in Gaetz, and Hegseth, if he goes down, then that calls into question everybody else because they will immediately go after
Tulsi.
RFK,
Oh,
Tulsi.
they've got I mean, with this serious stuff going on, I can tell you that John Bolton's been on the Sunday shows with like a full on half half bolt to get rid of Tulsi.
A hard on for war again.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
implying somehow that there's gonna, with Syria falling, they're gonna find documented proof that Tulsi was an agent of Russia. He's such a tool.
which is still one of the dumbest things I've ever heard because the only reason that that is even a thing is because Hillary Clinton said it in a debate. No evidence, just said it out loud, and suddenly the Democrats take it as truth. Same Hillary Clinton, who calls basically every Republican politician a Russian asset, even if she doesn't have a Steele dossier to back it up. So, yeah, but so Hegseth, Joni Ernst is just blowing up her career trying to keep Hegseth out of there, and it's because she wants the job, along with a few other reasons. But what's your take on that? We'll get into the allegations and all that kind of stuff in a minute. But Joni's Joni's lost her freaking mind. So
So she was trying to do this back channel. This is the way the Senate rhinos kind of work. She was being non-committal publicly, very
right,
cold, like indifferent. But on back channel, she was allegedly campaigning hard with Trump transition people to say, Hegseth is a problem. I would sail through confirmation. I'll support MAGA. I'm on the Doge thing. I'm 100% about your agenda.
yeah,
The problem for Joni is we have a fully activated MAGA media complex now.
correct,
And they immediately turn their sights on Joni Ernst and how she's a lying rhino, that she's captured by the state. She's doing interviews about putting trans people all up in the military because our diversity is our strength.
yeah.
And instead of, lethality being the strength of the American fighting force.
And her thing has always been SA in the military. So I mean, Hegseth has said he would, you know, address that. So I don't know what her issue is with Hegseth,
You know what's funny about her
except that she wants
position
the position.
about that is only of the two, of Pete Hegseth and Joni Ernst, only one of them banged another soldier while married on active duty,
Yeah.
and it wasn't Pete Hegseth.
Yep.
And for people, that's official. That's in like her divorce proceedings. It was like not contested, just agreed upon fact when she got divorced. That when in the 2000s when she was deployed, she was knocking boots with one of her presumably junior soldiers because she was a higher ranking enlisted person, or no, an officer at the time. So
Right.
not good. And she's going to turn around. Like, this is why Joni earned, like, as we learned from the Ann Seltzer poll debacle, Iowa, not friendly for Rhino. It's MAGA country. Like, if Josie
Yeah.
Smollett was out there at 3 a.m. in Iowa, it might actually be MAGA country. So Joni is, and there's an AG, an attorney general of Iowa, who is ready and willing to like primary her ass and take that Senate spot because she's full on MAGA and would do it. And the Joni's got to be understanding she's playing with fire. You can see the shift in her tone over the course of the week too.
Right.
Now she's gone. Now her latest statement that I saw was she's 100% on board with Pete Hegseth going to a hearing. Like, she was initially they really wanted to blow his up and blow
They
his
wanted him to
nomination
pull
up.
out the same way Gates
Yeah,
did.
before they could do that. Yeah, they wanted, that's what their goal, because they don't want to have fingerprints on it. So the rhinos, their goal is to be able to torpedo these nominations without ever having to take a vote on the record.
And in the last week, her popularity has gone down below Mitch McConnell's. So she took a very big hit, and I'm sure she's feeling it now. But yeah, it was political suicide for her to come out against Hegseth. I don't think the Senate rhinos have really gotten the clear message yet that, yeah, we voted for this. It wasn't just voting for Trump. It was voting for everybody he said he was going to put into his cabinet and into positions of power. I mean, you see a whole bunch of tweets about Elon Musk and Vivek saying nobody voted for these guys. It's like, no, we actually did. It wasn't just Trump. We voted for the whole shebang. And the Senate Republicans need to get on board or they're not going to have their seats because they will be primaried at this point.
Yep. And that's the in the end we need to do. This is something that we need to kind of work on. We get these senators from ostensibly red states. Now Iowa is a little bit of a special case. It shifted from purple to red like hard through the Trump years.
Yeah.
Trump is so for people who want to understand why, when I talk about the fact that I know what would have happened if DeSantis had ran and he would have lost, it's because you can see like Iowa during the Obama to Romney elections was a competitive back and forth battleground state. And to that, like Ohio, remember people, Ohio used to be the battleground state, right?
Ohio and Florida.
What with Trump, it's not even close. No. He's winning by 10 points.
And
same with Florida.
This isn't the Republicans. This is the MAGA movement. Yeah. I mean, the Republican Party has kind of been left in shambles. The Democrat Party is absolutely in shambles. But what has formed out of that is a MAGA movement that is essentially a party unto itself because people are voting for Trump and MAGA. They are not voting for necessarily the Republicans.
Which is why
he ran as a Republican doesn't mean he's going to govern like the Republicans have.
Which is why, and this is, I know this is complicated for some people when I say it. I don't disagree with, I know that there's shenanigans and that there's probably some fraud going on, but I think it's 100% possible, given what we know about the electorate and how they feel about Trump versus traditional Republicans, why these Senate candidates underperformed Trump in the states they were running in. Like the candidates that were MAGA, like in Pennsylvania, he was the most MAGA. He won.
Yep.
In Ohio, very MAGA. He won. Mike Rogers in Michigan, not really MAGA. He was like traditional Republican club.
Right.
Hovde over in Wisconsin, I think, is probably the most likely where shenanigans seem to happen based on some of the data coming out. And I know that people don't like saying this, but Carrie Lake, she was a loser. She's been a loser. That's her that's the albatross around her neck, and people don't like voting for people who have lost continuously. It's just a thing.
Continuously whine about
it. Continuously whine about it. I also thought it was a funny thing where someone put a picture on Twitter X, and they gave Carrie Lake like long. Basically, they make her over like Megyn Kelly. It was like if you take away the power woman haircut and give her the long hair, she probably wins because it softens her image. I don't want to say it's a cursed haircut, but it sort of is a cursed haircut.
Eric Myers just said it as you were talking about it.
Lake's
albatross is the haircut.
Yeah. If when a woman gets that, like, I'm a girl boss power haircut, the Hillary Clinton,
what was the quarterbacks? Kurt Warner's
Warner. Yeah. The flat top fade.
Yeah.
And it's just, you don't want to be, judgy, and it shouldn't be about looks, but with female candidates, that shit matters.
It is about looks.
And
oftentimes
there's a reason, part of the reason everyone likes Tulsi is she's an attractive woman.
And so Luna.
Yeah. So you should do that. Look at the way Joni Ernst changed, right? If you don't want to, she started with that flat top fade kind of haircut when she first got elected, barely. And since she's been in power and she's had consultants who actually want her to win higher, bigger office, she's grown her hair out. She's
Right.
tried to soften her
Soften the
image.
image. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to do that. Even Hillary, as she was trying to do some of that stuff, tried to soften her image a little bit. Then she went full Mao and thought she could get away with it.
Pantsuits and short hair. Yeah.
Pantsuits and short hair, and she lost. It's just a truth that just needs to be acknowledged. It's politics. It is what it is. Deal with the reality of it. It's how it goes. But Joni Ernst is like, if what's great is now the attention is getting paid to the stuff she's actually said.
Right.
Which and I love this example because she has been getting roasted so hard by the MAGA media complex that it has shifted the conversation. Like Cornyn came out and was like, yeah, Hegseth, let's do it. Like, he was another one who would have been an establishment, like, probably moving away from it. They're getting the pressure. They're seeing the idea. Like, these are all guys who, if they're coming up for election in 26, realize they would not survive a primary. It's no mistake that the people who are easiest to get away with doing it, Murkowski, Collins, these ones can't. They won't get primaried.
Years and years.
Well, not just no. Murkowski's up in 26, but she's completely safe because even if she loses in the Republican primary, Alaska kept ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice.
She'll run as an independent, and even if she loses, like, the initial round, she'll end up winning.
Even without McConnell pushing it, you think?
I mean,
he's the one that spent all the money there last time.
Well, Thune is McConnell. McConnell is Thune. They're going to they'll keep Murkowski there. If we had real balls, all right, how do I put it? If we were, like, you want to look at how we should be running the Congress and the Senate, and I know it's really weird to ever say this, but look what Nancy Pelosi did. If people crossed her, they'd lost their committee assignments. They lost it. Like, they got moved on. Like, as soon as they started even chattering about doing this stuff, it was made known that if you consider this stuff, you become
lockstep with her, or if you cross her, she will take you down.
Yeah, like Lisa Murkowski is getting chairmanships. Why? She shouldn't be getting chairmanships.
Nope.
She's right now. Whatsoever. I think she's going to be. Let's see. I think she was moved into, like, energy and commerce.
Affairs, I think, is where she was, or not. No, that's Ernst. Is she something to do with the interior?
She was energy and natural resources.
Yeah,
and I think luckily, like, Mike Lee is going to be in charge of that one now, and because they've put out some of the committee, the committee assignments. Mm-hmm. Were getting announced. So what's interesting, like, they are going to have to adjust Rubio's plan for him not being there, but it looks like, at least for right now, they haven't put her in a chairmanship. They did that before, like last time when she was voting against Trump stuff. She should have lost all her committee assignments. That's right. But we never do that kind of thing, which is stupid.
Well, because you've got McConnell, Thune types running it. The Senate is the only animal that you can't really bring under control real easily, even with a presidency and a mandate, because they tend to outlast a presidency for the most part because of the 6-year election cycles. Let's see. Yeah. Speaking of DeSantis, he did meet with Trump last week, and they tried to start the rumor that he was going to replace Hegseth as the nominee, and then Trump came out immediately and was like, "Nope, Pete's the guy." What do you think they were talking about? Do you think they were talking about who he's going to appoint to the Senate, or are they doing a special election there?
He gets to appoint before the election,
right?
So he's going to choose whoever is going to be that placeholder. I know that there was also rumors that DeSantis was a possible replacement for Hegseth at defense,
Right.
and I
And
don't
Trump
like.
squashed that immediately.
Well, that partially also because when that got floated, the MAGA revolt
Yep.
was so. One thing Trump is doing is I think he's paying attention to trial balloon. Like some of his people put out these leaks or trial balloons because you don't know which one it is. We might think they're leaks, but they might also be trial balloons to see. And
What the reaction is.
this is one of the things that I think did Gaetz in, that some of these other choices that were floated, like when Bondi's name got floated, there was a little bit of anti-Bondi, but not much. In fact, a lot of the other MAGA was like, "Yeah, Bondi's fine. She's been on Team Trump. We're cool with it." Like that's where Gaetz. That's where the end for Gaetz really was. It was that he had an alternative, and when the name got floated, it wasn't. There was no revolution
There was
against
no
it.
revolt. Yeah.
With Hegseth, people are in on Hegseth, and it's a lot like Kavanaugh. They have a visceral reaction now to the idea that he is being smeared. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, to be honest, a lot of people were like, "Oh," just like me a little bit, where you make the jokes. I don't think that Gaetz was being completely smeared. I think he definitely did some bad behavior and had the
Yeah.
Venmo records to prove it. So people weren't like, "Oh, this is such disingenuous BS." It's more like, "Man, Gaetz, I really wish you hadn't put out Venmo money for like you being cutie."
Right.
It's like that's
Well, and the allegations against Hegseth are
yeah.
so easily disproven.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
the main allegation against him that he, possibly SA'd that girl in San Diego. Once you read the police report and see that this was 100% a girl that banged him,
well,
got
not
and
a girl, full-grown
a full
woman
grown woman
married with her kids in the hotel at the same
had
time.
consensual relationships with a dude she probably thought was hot.
Didn't go
And
in to get the kit done until the Thursday following
when the
because
husband
that's
was
how long
demanding
it would.
it,
But that's also how long it would take for a um, toxicology report to not show anything in her system. So she couldn't go before then, or it would have shown there was nothing in her system. So the
correct.
timing of it was very interesting. She's
Yeah,
caught
because
on camera literally coming on to him after he was hitting on somebody else, and it looked like she got jealous because her texts have also come out saying that she didn't have any idea who he was, but everybody was, fawning over him. And then I think she was just the last gal in the room at the end of the night. So,
yeah, and
I
for
mean, it
some
may make
people,
him a dick, but he also wasn't married at that time. She was.
I don't know
And
about you, Brom. You've been on have you done work travel?
yeah,
All right. Work the truth of the work travel / convention circuit thing is there's
tons of drinking, tons of
tons of
hooking up.
drinking and tons of extramarital affairs happening.
Many
All
corporate team members managed to lose their jobs after these things.
Yeah, I remember I went to it when I did training. I got sent to our corporate office for adjuster, like higher level bodily injury claims adjuster. And this was where I was still coming out of having managed a movie theater, so I still had a book of movie passes. So for me, like I drove down to the setting. I was there. I was married. I didn't feel like going. I also don't drink. So everyone else is like, we're going to the bar and doing all this stuff. You just like you do you. It's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm gonna go see 300. I'm gonna go see like it had just opened that week. I was like, I'll go see that. And they're like, well, you saw that yesterday. What are you doing tonight? I was like, I'm gonna go see TMNT. It's the animated Ninja Turtles movie. They're like, why are you seeing that? I was like, because it's free. It just opened. I'll go see it. The next night, we're getting drunk and having fun. What are you doing? I'm going to see Meet the Robinsons. It's playing this week. I'm just gonna go see it. They're like, why aren't you ever hanging out and like doing it? It's like, because I'm married and I have no interest in hooking up. And he's like, dude, it's all right. My wife's not gonna find out. Narration: his wife did find out, and
Yep.
it ended very badly. This stuff happens, like these text messages where she was messaging her friend where she's like, this Pete Hegseth guy, people are fawning over him, he's kind of a jerk. And people are like, look, she was telling her friend she didn't like him. And I was like, yeah, you've never met a woman. You know, like
All the women were looking at him.
yeah.
She felt left out. She got jealous. Yeah, we got some more bad take Bojan lore. At least when good take Bojan traveled, they went to strip bars instead of whorehouses or hotel bars.
um fact check, the hotel bar is a whorehouse.
Right.
Except sometimes you don't have to pay. So it's, but that's why I don't look. Did he bang a married woman? Yeah. Okay. Was that a great choice on his part? Probably
And
not.
that has been acknowledged and known
Yeah.
for a long time. The only
Does
reason he paid her was because the same reason everybody does, just to keep your mouth shut. And the thing is, she's now getting sued by his lawyer because she has broken the NDA.
Yep, because she came out and did it.
So every dollar that he paid her and is continuing to pay her, yeah, that's all forfeited now.
To answer Eric Meyer's question, no, he was divorced. He had gotten
He
his
might have been
current
engaged to the current wife, but he
his
wasn't
current
married.
wife was pregnant at the time,
Yeah,
but that was actually also a extramarital affair. So Hegseth,
yeah. He has a
here's the
history
thing,
of cheating on his 3 wives.
and here's another thing. Here's my deal. If Hegseth goes, that means that every member of Congress who's ever had an extramarital affair or paid someone to sign an NDA has to also go. And let's see how many people are left in Congress after
Right.
that one. The answer would be not many,
Yeah.
because that's why I like Marjorie Taylor Greene's argument where she was like, "Fine, let's talk about because you may not know this. I think our audience probably does. Congress has a slush fund that they
Yep.
use to pay off people who work
Allegations of this specific
for
nature.
congressmen and senators, and they guess what they pay them off and then make them sign NDAs to go away. And there's a lot of them. I think the last time one of the congressional watchdog groups, you can find what the total paid was, but it
It was
won't
like
tell you.
147
Yeah,
million or
but
something
it
like
won't
that.
tell you who the members of Congress were or what their allegation was, or any of that stuff. You just see the total, and that's by design because they don't want anyone to actually be able to do that. So I'm not holding him to a higher standard than what we were doing. Like our first gentleman was knocking up maids, paying her to get abortions, and then beating up girlfriends. And people said he was the picture of 21st century masculinity. So the
Well, and the
media
other
is.
place that this is funny is the media. I mean, journalism is rife with the exact same thing. Everybody in DC that's a journalist seems to be sleeping with somebody else. So the fact that they're all, blushing about Hegseth's allegations, it's like, no. I mean, the other allegation that's out there against him is a whole bunch of anonymous sources saying that he's a drunkard. And he has said, yeah, when I came back from my deployments, I lived in the bottle for a little bit, but that's not the case anymore. I haven't had that issue. Um, every one of the journalists, that they have bars that they specifically all go to from all of the networks, and they all get sloshed. There is one specific bar, I think, in New York City that is like known as a media bar. And I mean, they've got pictures on the wall of people that everybody would recognize that are completely wasted out of their minds. So I don't like the hypocrisy of the politicians or the media in this case.
Yeah, that's why I think Hegseth is the right line to draw in the sand. Because if they do this with Hegseth, you better believe, like Tulsi, they'll go
RFK has
after.
so much
Oh yeah,
worse stuff out there.
and that's why honestly I could give a shit. That's where they've pushed me to this point in my life. Right in the '90s when Bill Clinton did his thing, and I was younger and more I guess naive. I was like, yeah, morality matters. As the commander in chief, he should definitely not be, perjuring himself in a criminal court case about his sexual harassment, and he shouldn't be doing this in the Oval Office. And you know what? I am old. I was old enough to remember that in 1998, when all that shit was happening, the media circled the wagons and basically said it's a private sexual matter. It has no bearing on his ability to do the job as president. So why are we even bringing it up? Do you remember that, Brahma? That was like
I
the
do,
line.
and I also remember in the years since where it's become a power dynamic, and he would automatically have been forced out of office at this point for taking advantage of an intern.
Well, that's the thing, though.
They
He
just
would not have
changed.
been. They would. They still would protect him. Even they
They
would
would
apply
try,
that. They would apply that standard to any other Republican politician, and they would still give Bill Clinton a pass.
likely.
And
Yeah.
that's the truth of it.
At this point, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I think Megyn Kelly and quite a few others have expressed the same thing. At this point, the morality clause in our politicians, I don't think exists. So we need to look at what he's going to be able to do, not worry about the morality of their private lives. Because as much as I would like moral, upstanding people in office, there's not that many that are in politics because it tends to draw a certain type of person.
Exactly. So that's why I'm fine. Trump is bringing in people who actually seem to care.
Effective.
They care about the, and this is, we've talked again on our show about it before. You bring them in to fix the area where you agree, and they're very passionate and can be very effective. Hegseth, would I trust him like in other areas? Probably not. But he is a warfighter who has made his years of post-military service committed
To
to
bronze medals.
advocating for the warfighter and the average guy in combat, average person. Because don't want to put Hegseth in trouble by saying the guy part. The average
Right.
person in combat and what they go through. And people are terrified of having a Department of Defense run by someone with the perspective of an average boots on the ground soldier who has to worry about that if their equipment gets blown up, that they're going to be sent a bill for it. That has to worry about, the fact that the VA isn't going to give them the care they need and the prescriptions they need from the results of what happened to them in combat.
Right.
These are common issues. Veterans are treated like trash. The idea that the Atlantic and some of these other publications were like, we give too much money to our veterans after they retire, they can fuck off and die saying
Yeah,
stuff like
especially
that.
looking at what we're doing with Ukraine.
Yeah, or illegal immigrants coming into the country getting blank checks.
Correct.
So I am, if there's one area of government I don't have a problem with spending like a drunken sailor, it's on the benefits we give our veterans. They earn it. They earn it 100-fold. The way we abuse them. This is since the military has become an all volunteer force. They have been deployed more and more frequently, like not less. The draft went away in the 70s. We
Yep.
started only having a volunteer force for the military. And since then, they've been consistently deployed in bullshit after bullshit, interventions, peacekeeping missions, all
Yeah,
these other
policing the
things.
world.
And then when we do that, we also don't talk about the toll it takes on the families. When they try to bring up that Hegseth, abused alcohol, had failed marriages, you don't think the fact that what he went through and those deployments maybe exacerbated any of those issues and helped, cause that to blow up. We give people all these problems to deal with in exchange for serving our country.
And in
And we,
exchange for promises after they've served the country that we're going to take care of
yeah.
them.
And
And we're
then
not living up to those promises.
when they come back, when we get a guy who actually seems to care about the soldiers that would be under his, leadership at the Department of Defense, we try to just crucify him because he's made some personal mistakes.
So, a
No.
couple stories about Hegseth. He was enrolled in Princeton. I believe it was when 9/11 happened. He voluntarily went on deployment, joined the military, went on deployment. When he was in Iraq, I don't know if you remember, but the rules of engagement were all jacked up.
Oh yeah, it was you only if you were fired upon could you even, like, if
And they
all
were
right.
getting different orders from their They're people on the ground than they were from the Pentagon.
Yeah.
So you could only engage if somebody engaged with you. Then on the ground, they're telling you, no, you need to engage if you even think somebody's about to fire at you.
And
So
then when that happened, we would then the guys back home would try to bring them up on charges and jam them up on that. It was
So here's how
ridiculous.
Hegseth handled that when he was in charge of his unit. Hegseth was always the first through the door because he wanted to be the one that had to make the decision rather than, some private that, you know, you going to ruin some kid's life because he decided to take the shot when he shouldn't have taken the shot. He wanted the responsibility for that call being made. So that's what Pete Hegseth is.
Which is not the normal move of an officer, even a
No.
platoon level officer, like a lieutenant,
And I'm
isn't
not going to
usually. Yeah.
pretend to understand the military, but I mean, that seems like that is putting your money where your mouth is there, walking the walk.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, that's why I'm getting so heated for Exit. I think there's a lot of reasons why it's a bad idea to try to backtrack on him. Number
And I
one,
think Trump has signaled that he
yeah,
is going to back him all the way through.
yeah, I do think Trump did the calculus right that Gates was probably going to be someone who just caused him problems, and also once this is again what the ability to go out, Hegseth being able to go out and refute the police because the police report is actually on Hegseth's side because they didn't charge him. Like he
Right.
was in a good spot to go out and be able to give a strong interview and refute any allegation. Gates getting out there where he's trying to be nuanced about like, hey, why were you giving the 17-year-olds all these hundreds of dollars for being cuties? Because and even though, and this is I'll give it in Florida, not illegal. 17, I believe, is above the age of consent, so they could have relationships. It's it doesn't it makes it's the skeezy test, right? You don't like that. It's like
Right.
so Gates was not going to be one. He was going to derail the agenda rather than help the agenda.
Well, and Gates had burned some bridges even within MAGA because of the debacle that was the House in the last term.
Yeah. So yeah, when I still think it was a real
I
mistake.
still like Gates, but I
Yeah.
do think without having a plan on who to put in to the speakership, it was just a wasted, you know, let's make the Republicans look like absolute idiots. Because McCarthy and Johnson, nothing was going to be different with either of them because you don't have the numbers to do anything. So
Yep.
it was a senseless act that just kind of made it look like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing when we have power. Which that's the Republicans, always has been. They don't know what to do when they've got the power. So that is why I think it is so important that we're seeing, as I've said many, many times, this coalition that Trump's putting together and it actually being a MAGA movement rather than a Republican or Democrat movement.
Yep.
Now we just got
Yeah.
to get the Senate to fall in line.
There you go. Yeah, so I think I am actually very bullish on Hegseth's chances now because the PR strategy they employed were number one, they've roasted Joni Ernst alive this last week and she's feeling it and she's getting massive hits.
Yeah, she's
Number
backing off.
two, this they sent like they tried to float that like background reporting where up to 8 Republicans were probably going to be no's on Hegseth, and the Trump people doubled down and immediately like that next morning did the statement about Pete being a fighter and he's in it. We're like basically signaled that if you're gonna take out Hegseth, you're doing it by voting. We're not gonna let you off the hook this time. You're
Right.
gonna actually have to take the tough vote. And I know there might be 8 on background that say they'll vote against Hegseth. I want to see who the 8 are who are comfortable enough with their positions that they're going to vote against Hegseth. One of those guys might have been Tom Tillis, but he was out there with Vance in North Carolina. Like he's also up for election. He's if he's running in 2026, and they just saw how out in force Western North Carolina came out after the hurricane debacle for Trump. Vance was out there, helping, bring attention to the needed recovery efforts. If you're Tillis, do you want to be the guy who's going against Trump when he's that beloved? within your
Right.
state? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you're going to see the usual suspects: Murkowski, Collins, and McConnell. McConnell is such a waste.
I don't. I mean,
I'm so glad he's
there's a
so glad he's
non-zero
stepping
chance that
down.
McConnell doesn't pass away before those votes have to happen. He is having more of those frequent like. Have you seen
Lockups
it where he just like
where
where
he
he's like
just
a
pauses
computer?
and stares. Yeah,
He's like a computer getting a blue screen, and he has to be reset and go through the like have be completely
get
restarted
rebooted.
before
Yep.
yeah and rebooted. No, so I don't think that McConnell will be a no on Hegseth. I think if it gets to a vote, he'd be a yes too, because McConnell's smart enough that one of the things McConnell has never done is actually have to take that tough vote on the record. McConnell is one of those RINO guys where he just keeps the vote from happening.
Right.
And so I think that's where if it got, if Trump stays firm and does it, he's going to vote for it.
We'll see,
Yeah.
because it does sound like we're going to see the vote. And
Now
I
I've
think it's going to be an ugly confirmation process for Hegseth. But I think we've already seen the worst that could come out, and it's all been refuted. And if everything is just going to be anonymous sources, anytime it's anonymous sources, I'm likely to just throw it out in my mind. I'm so tired of the anonymous sources that just always seem to go against any person on our side. And it's just gotten ridiculous.
yep. So
You ready
now,
to share this now?
yeah. So this is, I think, our next topic that we'll probably touch on is Syria. So I like to bring up this is a nice historical background record when you see the reporting on the rebels who are now taking over Syria and how they're all nice people who are going to believe in freedom and democracy. I like to. This is a great headline to show up and remind people of from the past. If
I
Roma's,
think
yeah,
it's there. So yeah, when I added your new version of you, it's jacked up the
yeah.
scene a little bit.
So this was a headline after the Soviets pulled out of Afghanistan. Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on road to peace. I think we all recognize who that person in the picture is.
Yep.
Yeah, and how he the pull quote here: "What I lived in 2 years in Afghanistan, I could not have lived in 100 years elsewhere," said Osama bin Laden. This Saudi businessman who recruited Mujahideen now uses them for large scale building projects in Sudan because he's such an awesome guy who was just only, he's just a freedom fighter in Afghanistan. He's not going to do anything bad.
Not much different than what we did with Saddam Hussein.
As because, and I say this because the guy who is taking over Syria now, ostensibly the head of the rebels, is a former head of Al Qaeda.
The scene is all jacked. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to fix it in the background.
Yeah, so Syria, so what?
Yeah. Are they saying you're still out? Because on our end, you're in. Weird. Um, let's see if we can
All right.
fix it real quick.
Yeah, Deeple, Brahma killed Chad.
It happens.
All right. I think I'm back.
Let us
I
know
would
if you can hear him,
if chat can hear him now.
because Chad's been going on for like 5 minutes now.
I've been given the deep background on the Syrian civil war, which is, not the all right. Long story
Chad's
short,
back.
Syria, much like Iraq, was a nation run by what are called Baathists, which was like an Islamist secular political party. Assad's family were like Assad's father was the Baathist in charge of Syria, just like Saddam Hussein was a Ba'athist in charge of Iraq, and they were secular dictators. Assad, who was an American educated, I believe, pediatric doctor or optometrist, I forget which random thing he was, came back and took over the country after his father passed away. And since then, the starting with the Obama administration, there has been a CIA funded operation to try to remove him, because we like nothing more than to try to remove dictators from the Middle East, because it always gets better
Yeah.
when we do that. That's what happened in Libya. This Syria is Libya 2.0. The CIA was running guns to these quote unquote freedom fighters who turned out to be ISIS. Everybody might remember when John McCain was alive and went over to Syria and took all those pictures with the freedom fighters who turned out to be the heads of ISIS that were killing Americans later. And they had no problem. There was the reason Trump ended the conflict in Syria for a while and destroyed ISIS is he cut off the CIA checks and guns. He didn't have to send soldiers because we were funding and creating it on purpose to destabilize this country. And if you're a conspiracy theorist, you probably may buy into the fact that destabilization would allow Muslim Brotherhood type organizations to take over another large swath of land. And if you are a conspiracy theorist who saw that Obama was putting pressure on Egypt to allow that to happen there, you might start questioning why we were so okay with Muslim Brotherhood offshoots taking over countries left and right. Luckily, in Egypt, the current dictator type guy shut that down, and Trump supported him. So we kept, like, if Egypt fell off it would be a big problem for us, because Egypt is actually one of the areas where they, through their dictatorial head of state, shuts a lot of that down and arrests those people and keeps it from getting worse. Much like Saudi Arabia did for a while under Trump. So I'm looking forward to what Trump does with the Middle East. He already put out tweets basically saying, all right, Assad is out. Russia wasn't defending him because they were preoccupied with Ukraine. So it is what it is. It's not our business. We're not getting involved. We're not sending troops. We're not sending money. We're not sending any of this stuff. If you guys descend into some humanitarian crisis, that's a shame.
Yeah,
Figure it out.
He's looking at it as a internal struggle, and why does that concern us?
What Trump is going to say is, if this is such a big deal for the Middle East should pay to solve it. Saudi Arabia should pay to solve it. Jordan should pay to solve it.
Yeah,
Qatar should pay to solve it.
You guys are so proud of.
Yeah, to stuttering guitars. Egypt did block aid going to Hamas because they also recognize that the Hamas was a terrorist organization that would then target the Egyptian government. They don't stop with Israelis. They're jihadists, and they don't like any secular government. They want it to be controlled by a religious theocracy. So Egypt basically said, no, we're not letting stuff go into these. That's why we had to build that American pier to deliver aid that worked out so well. It was a nice testament to Biden's operations.
Yeah.
Broken within.
It's not made to do this. Okay, we're going to do it anyway and spend the money on it. Okay, it broke. Useless.
Yeah, so it's good. I like the fact it's almost nice because Biden is so out of whack that Trump has become the de facto actual operating head of state for the United States. I mean, look at when he went over to Notre Dame, as was seen in our opening footage. Everybody's kissing his ass and listening to what he's saying.
Every world leader.
Yeah, so it's when Trump comes out with his statements that we are not going to be getting involved in Syria, I like the fact that it actually puts the military industrial complex on the spot. Because if they try to escalate with 4 weeks left, 6 weeks left till Trump is in office, everybody in the American public knows they're doing it going against what they voted for.
Right.
and it just reinforces the deep state. And yeah, Jill Biden was trying to put the moves on Trump because she's like,
Yeah. Have you seen the AI things where like
she's
they
kissing
start
him.
fighting?
Yeah,
She
I've
tries
seen
to
the.
jump him and he fights her off. And then there's the other one where they're making out.
Yep. Unfortunately for Jill Biden, she can't quite get away with being the young hot babysitter like she did to land Joe initially.
Right.
So, so that's what you know. Or like, I mean, there's some politicians have some weird stuff. Like Macron over in France is probably currently the weirdest relationship in the fact that she was his teacher like in middle school,
Right.
and he just
Yeah.
waited till he was allegedly waited till he was 18 to start banging and marry her. So
It's a weird one.
sure, maybe in France that's not as weird as it would be here, but that is what happened. So I don't know which is weirder, her or Jill Biden. Jill's kind of like,
She'll get Trudeau. He needs a new beard.
that's nice. That's true. Well, no, because Trudeau's about to get kicked out of office and she wants power. So she's not
Yeah,
going to.
Trudeau, the polling that's coming out is like, what, 57% of the country is polling for the conservatives?
Trudeau is going to get
And
wiped. Like
Trudeau is at only like 27, 28%, something like that.
the 18 to 30-year-old vote, which is supposed to be the, always the heart of the liberal bloc,
Right.
is going for conservatives like 52 to 48, which it doesn't sound like a huge lead, but when they're normally winning that by like 20, 30 points, that kind of shift is
It's a big
dramatic
flip.
and noticeable. So yeah, I anticipate that. Now the question is whether the Conservative Party, when they take over, is going to have the wherewithal to like undo some of like the shenanigans they're doing this week, where they took away more guns.
243 new guns put on the
The
list of
on
illegal weapons,
Yeah, and
and
then
they're trying to confiscate them and send them
and
to
them to
Ukraine.
Ukraine. The chutzpah to say you can't have it, but you know what? They'd be effective to help Ukrainians defend their
These freedom
freedom.
fighters over there could use them. No reason you'll ever need it to fight for freedom from a government. It's
Yep.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So
So
I think Syria. Thank thank you to God, because I do think this is one of those things where you can see that maybe even though Trump might not be, as it comes up with your Christian panel show sometimes, Trump may not be the most ostensibly faithful and devout person, but that doesn't mean he can't have a purpose from God to
we
help
didn't
the
vote him
world.
in to be our pastor.
Yeah. So it's good that he's, I think he made it very clear he's staying out of Syria and we're not going to get involved. So
Yeah, his statements were very clear cut. Um, Other statements he made this morning were that, yeah, day one, Trump is looking at using the pardon on a lot of the J6ers.
I heard it was all of them. He was just going to pardon all of them.
And it might be. I haven't heard the specifics of what he's looking at doing, but after, well, I don't think we got to talk about it. It hadn't happened last week when we had our show. I know during the show I had said that I expected Biden to pardon Hunter, but then a few hours after the show is when it actually happened. So
and
Biden,
the actual language of the pardon was not what we would have expected, with the
no.
broad, very specific blanket 11-year window of you're free from all accusation,
Yeah, that goes
which
back to
coincides
exactly the
perfectly
year that he joined Burisma.
Burisma and got the Chinese money too. So I would anticipate that we're going to see pardons for his brother coming through, because that'll be another one. I think there's going to be a thing where he did the Hunter one early, but I think there's going to be a spate where like that last day, which
Yeah,
much like
he's
Bill
going
Clinton
to
did,
pardon everybody.
there's also
Schiff, anybody
Schiff.
that is supposedly on Trump's attack list, he's going to just issue a mass pardon to all of them. I have no doubts we're going to see tons of them come down right there at the end.
And I know there's some people who are debating the legality of a blanket pardon. I don't know that it's, unfortunately, the precedent was set with Jimmy Carter doing the blanket pardon for the draft dodgers during the Vietnam War. And since that wasn't challenged and has been, effectively on the books of the federal government for 50 years now, I don't
Well,
know that we're going to. I mean, that's not to say somebody couldn't challenge it and try to get because there's legal theory that a pardon has to be specific for, like it has to say you were pardoned for this crime.
but it goes back before Carter, doesn't it? I mean, wasn't the
um
pardoning of the Confederate soldiers, was that not a presidential pardon, or how did they do that one? I can't remember.
they didn't pardon them. They were actually they had to apply for pardons.
So they had to apply for them.
So
It
they
wasn't
went
as
through, yeah.
sweeping.
Now it turned out to be much like a lot of things in government. It turned very grafty very fast. If you paid money, your pardon got pulled up to the front of the line and got executed very quickly,
Right.
versus if you didn't. So yeah, there was an actual like agency that where the pardons had to go through the Congress to be recommended, and then it went to like the president's office and they signed off on it. So there was not a blanket pardon. There was a if they it wasn't a pardon, but they weren't put in jail or tried for insurrection if they laid down their weapons and did their that basic, I think, oath to the United States.
Right.
That was kind of a blanket thing. But in order to hold office, like if they wanted to hold office, do business with the federal government, any of those other things, they
They had
actually
to
had
apply
to
for the actual
apply
pardon.
and get the official pardon from the government. Now, the other one that comes up is Nixon, where Ford gave him kind of the blanket pardon for anything related to Watergate.
Right.
So there's been two, and both of them in the 1970s, two instances of what's called a blanket pardon, where it's not for specific crimes, it's just for broad categories of action. Which, like hunters, there's no specific crimes named. It just says any crime charged or uncharged committed again,
For this
for the
11-year
federal
period.
government for that 11-year window is now pardoned. I don't mind, and like I don't mind legally. I mean, the president has the ability to pardon. Would it make it easier to follow from a government standpoint if he had to list out every single crime Hunter did? Yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think the presidential power to pardon is kind of a blanket power in the Constitution. It just says the president has the power to pardon someone. If they had put him in jail for 1,800 crimes and convicted him, he would probably just, I think the pardon would just say, you're pardoned from all crimes you were convicted of previously against the federal government. But somebody would say, well, you can go look at the list then. I think that's still kind of a blanket pardon. I don't mind it. Plus, I think that it's important for Trump to be able to do it for J6. There should be a blanket pardon so no one at or near J6 should ever have to face crime charges again. So the easiest way to do that is for him to do a blanket against for everybody. Now, will some DC circuit judges try to log him up for log jam some of those J6ers who are probably in jail currently? Probably. They'll
Probably.
probably say that pardon is too broad and do it, and it'll go up to the Supreme Court and get adjudicated fairly fast since it's out of the DC circuit. But it's just a matter of it's quick. I'm just interested to see if the DC circuit judges read the room and kind of move on, or if they want to hold out till their last dying breath on it. Is this the hill they're going to die on to try to make the Supreme Court clarify the presidential power pardon? Which then is
Yeah.
interesting because that could end up opening the door for Hunter Biden. Because if they
Well,
say that you can't do blanket pardons, Biden would be out of office by then and it would be voided.
and there is the possibility, I think it has to be put to the test a little bit, but if Congress subpoenas Hunter, Hunter no longer can claim the Fifth Amendment, is our understanding, right? Because
Yeah,
he now
anytime
has
someone's
been
given
pardoned,
immunity,
so you lose your Fifth Amendment right.
which is why when it comes up a lot in criminal proceedings where the prosecutor will give an immunity statement to the judge, basically saying, they call up a hitman, and
Yeah.
maybe the hitman hasn't made a deal yet, but they know what the hitman knows, and because it was part of the plea
They're
negotiations.
going for the higher ups.
So what they do is they give the judge, they will give a letter in writing to the judge that they guarantee that they will never be prosecuted for any of the crimes they testify to, and give that to the judge. And then when they try to plead the fifth, the judge will hold them contempt because you're not allowed to do that. You're immune. It's funny because the immunity deal is also that's how Bill Cosby got let out of jail. The previous prosecutor had done an interview with Cosby, and in order to get an interview with Cosby, they gave him an immunity agreement that said anything in your interview will never be used against you to prosecute you. Bill Cosby does his interview. A new DA gets elected in the Me Too era and turns around and prosecutes Cosby, and they use his statements that he had given to the previous prosecutor
while he had immunity.
So when it went to the state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, Bill Cosby didn't get let go because he was innocent. They get let go because if an agent of the government gives you that immunity, no future agent can revoke it.
Or use the information
or break the deal. Yeah, that agent, they have bound all future prosecutors based on that. You can't, right. It's because there's a concept called the fruit of the poisonous tree. It's a legal concept where if someone in the government does something and someone and breaks a rule, breaks a law, breaks something, and then they get evidence from it, all of the chain of evidence has to go out from there. And it's similar to that. And that's similar to what I think happened with what's his name in New York, Weinstein. When he got ordered to have a new trial is because they allowed evidence in that was collected under some agreements where it was never supposed to be allowed. And because of that, even though there was an overwhelming amount of evidence otherwise, they still said the defendant's rights were tainted. You can't do that. I think if Penny if Penny in New York gets convicted, the way the judge threw out that first charge that they were deadlocked on is going to probably set the door for an immediate overturnment of the verdict, and probably right. Jeopardy would attach, so they wouldn't be allowed to prosecute him again.
Right.
Because New York's law says that in order to do a lesser included charge, they have to convict on the upper charge. What the New York prosecutors did, because they're assholes, is they got the judge to dismiss the upper charge but keep the lesser included charge. Its language matters, right? Lesser included.
It
means it has to be included with that
to an and or.
Yeah, and so they're going to make them continue to do on that, which is against the jury instructions they were getting. Like this judge, he wants to get the conviction
for it.
The plan is get the conviction, keep New York from rioting, and then let the appeals court let him out, because this is giant, glaring, reversible error. In a lot of ways, it's similar to what they did to Trump, where the trial judge knows 100% that they are on the thinnest of ice, committing reversible error every single day.
Yeah.
But they just want the conviction at the lower court level because it gets them the headline, and it gets overturned 8 months to a year later. Just like what happened with Bob McDonnell in Virginia with Jack Smith. He got the conviction, and once it got to the Supreme Court, a 9-0 Supreme Court with RGB and all those other liberal justices said that it was a miscarriage of justice and they made up crimes from whole cloth and there was nothing illegal about what he did. We're overturning this conviction. But Jack Smith did his job, and that's what these guys are doing. The trial judges are there. That's I loved Trump's answer today on Meet the Press when they were asking about Kash Patel prosecuting politicians who are committing illegal things. Yeah. And Trump said,
well, his job is, if somebody did break the law, they're supposed to be investigated. So I guess it's on them if they broke the law.
Yeah. And then Kristen Welker was like, are you telling him who to investigate? He's like, no, I'm not telling him to investigate anybody, because that's what Obama did. Obama never had to tell any of his underlings who to go after. They all knew what their marching orders were because they were on the same page. So there
Yeah.
was no email chains, there was no meeting notes, none of that had to happen. Holder knew what his job was, just like Merrick Garland knew what his job was to do when he got appointed. And you did like Biden didn't have to have a meeting in the Oval Office to tell him to go after January 6ers or do all this stuff or go after Trump. They all knew to do it.
No, but all these DAs did go meet with Merrick Garland to find out what their specific assignments were.
To answer Eric in the chat, no, Donald Trump has no ability to pardon Penny. It's a state
It's not a
charge.
federal
Yeah.
crime.
Now, what Trump could do is if somebody tried to make the argument about going after him for civil rights violations and filing federal charges against Penny based on that, Trump could pardon him for those.
Yeah, the whole Daniel Penny thing is just an absolute travesty, and all it's going to do is make it to where people will not be a good Samaritan ever if he gets convicted. In fact,
Uh,
it may have already done the damage
I
in
guarantee
that
you, like
if
if I was in New
since they
York,
brought
nope.
charges and they've made him go to trial for this amount of time, I mean, that enough is probably enough to deter. That alone is enough to deter most people from doing any good Samaritan type acts.
I'll be honest, it's a straight equation. Like, look at what they did to Kyle Rittenhouse. Look at what they did to Penny. Like people in clear self defense situations getting prosecuted. Um, there was prosecutors get like there was an actually it's a lesser known case. It was out of Florida. I think it was in Jacksonville. It was and it was interesting because this was a case where the NRA and a lot of the gun rights groups were defending this woman. It was a black single mother who was alone in her home that she rented with her children, and the abusive dad or whoever was coming and threatening to kill her and her kids because and it was terrible, documented, like this was not a guy who would not have possibly done that. She took a gun out and fired a warning shot into the roof of her garage
Hmm.
to basically say, if you come any closer, I'm going to kill you. They arrested her for negligent discharge of a firearm.
Discharge of a firearm. Yeah.
And they tried to and they were prosecuting her for it. It was ridiculous. And it was and the NR like it was interesting because all the gun rights groups were coming out paying, defending or doing all this stuff. And this at the same time, they were trying to do headlines like it's always racist. And they're like, look, no, this is clearly a case of proper use of self-defense because she was not, even though Florida had a castle doctrine, she was trying to avoid killing the man.
Right.
But you charged her with negligent discharge. Like, what message are you sending people to do this? Like,
Right. Because if she had shot him, then she's probably going for murder or attempted murder.
yeah, because they
I mean,
like to disregard that too.
right.
It
Eric K
is,
for $5. New York City, who releases murderers and makes no good deed go unpunished. Yep. And I'm sure most people have heard kind of some of the other details about the Penny case. Um, I mean, we all covered it back when it originally happened, but the stuff that's come out during the actual case has been rather insane that they have any question of whether he's guilty or innocent. I mean, at this point, it's come out that Jordan Neely was still completely alive at the time that the police arrived. Um, the first responders refused to touch Neely. I
because
mean,
they
they
didn't
basically
want to
said,
get
"Nope,
AIDS.
we're not getting Hep C for this
Yeah,
guy."
and Hep C.
And he had so much drugs in his system that same thing as George Floyd. It wasn't being restrained that killed him. And when guys are that hopped up on stuff, you let him back up and you don't know if you're going to get him back down.
And
So,
he still had a pulse and was still breathing when they found him. So how
and
could he have been?
at one point while he was holding him, Neely was able to basically just, power stance him back up is what it sounded like. And Penny had to get him back down. But yeah, there's a lot that's come out during the case that says, just like Chauvin, I mean, this is completely railroading the guy.
I still think there was a lot of weirdness to the Chauvin case that didn't get discussed. Like
Oh,
that
there's a ton of it. Did you watch the
they worked
documentary?
together for like years, and he like didn't know. I think I still say that there was some kind of shenanigans where there was counterfeiting, and Chauvin might have been involved in it, and so he was trying to get Floyd to keep his mouth shut. There was anyway weird stuff, weird stuff. But none of that really matters compared to the Penny one is clear cut, 100%. Like he should
You
not have
had
ever
tons
been
of witnesses
charged.
say, yes, I felt absolutely threatened by Neely. If Penny hadn't done something, they felt like Neely would have done something.
Yeah, so I think there is there is no excuse for charging him. There's no excuse for continuing to. I mean, the process becomes the crime. It's similar to what happened in Austin when the guy got charged and convicted for defending himself against the protester with the AK-47 coming at him in his car. Like they're trying to
They're trying to
basically
scare people from self-defense
correct.
or
And
defense of others.
yep,
And this guy had been arrested 42 times. Why he was still out of jail, don't know. I mean, but you've got BLM this morning and last night calling for, if there isn't a conviction, we're going to start the riots again. So you've got that wing of the leftist movement trying to start off where they left off during Trump's last presidency. And I have no doubts that they will try to start the rioting again if he doesn't get convicted,
well, the
which should
funny
not be
thing
the
is,
reason for conviction. And that's
I I mean, you hear I've been watching closely the Eric Adams, you know, red pilling kind of scenario, and I'm wondering if he will. He's former cop. He knows. Look, the police all know what you need to do to end those riots.
right.
And the question is if Eric Adams will do it, because the NYPD is one of the few police forces with the actual genuine manpower to legit put down a large scale riot. Like they've got, what is it, 20,
There's what,
30,000?
more police in the
Yeah.
NYPD than there is in the whole FBI,
Yeah.
Secret Service, and CIA, at least
So
known.
if New York actually mobilizes in force, they can put down riots. The question, Bush says 85,000 NYPD officers.
Yeah, the question is, do they have the balls to do it?
Yeah, and previously, when it was the previous mayor with De Blasio, no, De Blasio wasn't interested in doing that. I think Adams is on his basically. I don't even want to say it's not even for selfish reasons, but because the Biden administration is currently going after him, and he wants to probably insulate himself against a little bit of that with Trump. So good for if it puts down and keeps the riots from getting out of hand. That's not peaceful protesting. That's rioting. Like
Rioting.
if they just march in the street and protest, fine, let it happen. But that's not what happens. That usually around 8, 9 o'clock at night, it turns into a free for all at the Foot Locker, and
It'll
Sam
be
Goody.
earlier right now because of the time of year.
That's
Sun goes
true.
down earlier.
Yeah. So now also the one other thing is it's not that far from New Year's, and New York City takes that seriously. That's
Yep.
like their flagship thing. So I think that's another reason why Eric Adams would put it down, so there's not a lot of reputational damage. They make a lot of money on New Year's. A
Well,
lot.
and I think he's also signaled that he thinks that Daniel Penny did the right thing.
Oh,
I
he
don't know
straight up
why
said.
he isn't outspoken about it,
Oh
if
no,
that's
he
what he's
actually
thinking.
no, he said it. He said
Did he
he
finally
did.
say it?
No, he did it. It was just like last week while the jury was deliberating, that he said what Penny did was what the police should have been doing, and he did our job for us.
So he did finally come out
Oh
and
yeah,
just
I
flat
mean,
out say it.
yeah, he didn't quite say find him not guilty, but when you say that Penny did the job the NYPD should have done, you're basically giving him the pass that you can imply that that chokehold was something that an NYPD officer would have been doing and should have been done. So Oh,
Yeah.
we got another super chat coming in for you. Rumble rant.
Another one from Mod Eric K for $1 over on the Rumble side. Remember, under the George Floyd case, George swallowed the lethal dose. He was DOA. BLM and Congresswoman doxed the jury. They knew everyone's name, face, and address. They spray painted houses. Yeah. I mean, that the George Floyd case, everything with the police officers was a complete travesty of justice if you actually go back and look at it. I'm trying to remember what the name of the documentary that came out was. Something about Minneapolis or something like that. The fall of Minneapolis, or let me see if I can find it while we talk about it. But yeah, I mean, they were railroaded. Everybody knows that George Floyd overdosed. The medical examiner was kind of forced to put in that it was homicide, just because anytime somebody doesn't die of natural causes, it's got to be one or the other type situation. But the people who read into that as it was murder is a completely different thing. And I agree with Slender. Chauvin should not be in jail. He may not be a good guy, but he wasn't put in prison for something that was actual murder. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, I think it is called The Fall of Minneapolis. And it is on YouTube. It was a documentary done about the whole trial. And it shows a lot of stuff that we did not see in the media about George Floyd and his history of doing this exact same thing. There is actually another body cam arrest where he is doing the exact same thing, saying he can't breathe, you know, acting the exact same way. And we know he had a criminal history. So again, it's like we were saying, it's trying to scare. I mean, that was a police situation, but the Daniel Penny thing is them trying to, scare people from being the good Samaritan, scare people from self-defense claims and actions. It's a big mess that, I mean, if you don't have people acting as good Samaritans in cases like that, then all you get is the same thing we're seeing all over social media, where it's just everybody pulls out their phone and watches somebody get killed.
I mean, I think if I was on a train, I would not have. I would just get off at the next stop. It is what it is. It's there's no winning. Being someone who wants to protect people doesn't help you in New York City or any blue state.
Right.
And honestly, if you're in a even in a red county or red zone, if you have a Soros prosecutor, you're still going to get railroaded. So you've
Correct.
got so there's not a good win. The if know where you're at. Now that doesn't mean don't defend yourself if it's an actual threat against you. It's still better to be facing a criminal situation afterwards than to be dead from someone trying to murder you. But you got to understand, you're not gonna be
Even
getting
if
the
it's clear
support.
cut, you are going to have consequences, is
Now
what
here,
what we're being told.
yeah. Now here's the other thing: if you are in one of those incidents, if you protect other people and something bad happens as a result, immediately get an attorney and do not speak to the police.
Yeah.
Just say, like, look, if the when the officers all spawn and they're talking to officers, I'm gonna seek counsel, and based on the advice of counsel, I'll talk to you guys once I do that. Don't Because you can see it. They Even though he did nothing wrong, they started parsing out everything he said to the officers on that body cam tape and the interviews after, to look for any specific language he used that where he said, "I put him out."
Right.
And they tried to, and the prosecutors hung their hat on that, trying to say he knew he was killing him, when no, he was trying to put him to sleep, like
A
trying to
sleeper
put
hold.
him down. Yeah. So, yeah, but that didn't keep them from doing that. So do not, they are not your friends. Or even if the police want to believe you, that doesn't mean that the district attorney will want to believe you and do it. Go with there's still not a guarantee even once you get an attorney that you're going to not be prosecuted, but at least you'll have, you'll have someone who is actually trying to protect your interests instead of somebody who is there for their bureaucratic, advancement.
The disgusting thing about all of this is how the left reacts to the things that have been happening, especially in, say, New York, between the Jordan Neely, Daniel Penny case, and now the United Health CEO type situation, where everybody's just celebrating, you know, the complete opposite thing here, celebrating that a guy just gets gunned down in the street, but throwing a fit that some guy may have contributed to the death of somebody by trying to protect everybody else. The left is always wrong on these things. It's absolutely both disgusting and amazing at the same time. If you're on Twitter watching, I don't know what on the streets. I haven't talked to enough people about it. I don't know that enough people know them or know about it to have a take on it. But Twitter has gotten disgusting, and Blue Sky is even worse. Um, Mod Eric K over on the Rumble side for another dollar. In Canada, Little Castro said, if you have a gun, you cannot use that to defend yourself in your own home. Well, I think that's pretty similar to what we see in the UK, where you have to use what, like force if somebody is threatening you. So if they've got a baseball bat, the most you can use is a baseball bat against them. You can't up the ante.
Yep. So just to try to, I've got something loaded up for us to have a nice change of pace because Trump never misses a beat.
Okay. Real quick though, Mod Eric K for another dollar. Even according to the bad FBI data, most shootings are stopped by legal gun owners. Correct. Good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun.
Yeah, but the FBI doesn't like to keep those statistics. So this is a fun little. Trump just launched a new fragrance line called "Fight, Fight, Fight." This is legit, and so he tweeted out, and it's a picture of Jill looking at him, and it says, "A fragrance your enemies can't resist."
Nice.
Here are my new Trump perfumes and colognes. I call them Fight, Fight, Fight because they represent us winning. Great Christmas gifts for the family. Go to gettrumpfragrances.com. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. It's,
Dude knows how to market.
it's amazing. It's hilarious. It's $199 though.
Wow. Pretty
Let's
proud of
see.
that then.
Yeah, the fragrance is priced at $199 each, includes scents that embody strength, power, and victory with rich, robust notes for men and delicate floral notes and a burst of citrus for women. So,
Yeah, Slender's
uh,
right. That should just be gifted to lefties.
I
Here's a Christmas
really,
present. Some fight, fight, fight.
I mean, I'm not saying that it should be your number one go to for the crazy blue haired person in your family, but if you guys take a collection to get that for them as the gift, I think that'd be cool.
Or your boss for Christmas.
Yeah.
Be like, what? I like the smell.
Yeah, Eric Myers puts on the aviator glasses and says, "Smells like winning."
Yeah.
uh, Funny stuff. Yeah, because I think we're in the. Yeah, remember, people. It's still a nice thing we can enjoy these little things. It's the little things to get you some
Yeah.
fun stuff as we're dealing with some of these more consequential issues.
The everybody trying to throw us into World War III, little or well, more localized issues like this case that we were just talking about, while also looking into who's going to be in the cabinet.
Yep.
You still got to have some fun. I think MAGA is having fun right now.
Yep. I got another fun meme to put up about what it's like. That's Hunter Biden having his way with Lady Justice, the blind justice.
Yep.
That is an excellent use of pictures from Hunter's laptop from hell.
Which is now all pardoned.
Which is, but that not all the people who were on it are pardoned. So
Nope.
interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if I really don't think Trump's going to go after anybody just like he didn't after the first time. but Cash Patel is going to root out some wrongdoing in some of our public offices, I think. And it won't be retribution, it'll be justice.
Yep.
But I think we've covered everything we had planned to cover, and we're getting close to that time. So, what do you got coming up this week, Chad?
Well, we're going to do our gaming stream Tuesday. I don't know what we're playing. Probably Party Animals because that
Yeah, because it's not
experiment
going to be
with
Gang Beasts.
Gang Beasts went poorly. We had a lot of issues. So we got that. And then Friday we got the Ascendant Art podcast, which will be a good time. I know that next Saturday, I think a recorded episode of Scripts on Saturday with me and Script Doctor will be played. So I'll be on, I think, that one next Saturday, which is the 14th. So good stuff. So 13th, the Ascendant Art podcast with me and Slender Dad. So if you guys aren't already, if you could check it out, maybe subscribe so we can keep going there. Got to compete with our boy Brahma here to get to the sub count and monetization if we can.
Yep.
And
Go
otherwise,
give Ascendant Art a follow.
I'll be here hanging out with Brahma on these shows.
Yep. As for me, I think I've got Culture Casino's show tonight on his channel, then the usual stuff with comics on Monday and Thursday. No Christian panel this week, so I get a Wednesday off, which I'm sure will fill up with something like gaming or something. And then Friday with you guys. Saturday, I've got bourbon and boarding in the evening, and then we're back here Sunday. So I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with us. Thank you, Eric K, for the super chats and Rumble rants. And I hope everybody has a fantastic week. The Avs play tonight, so I'll be watching that up until I'm on Culture Casino's channel. I think they're playing the Devils tonight. So
Oh, is he doing a Sunday show again? Good.
Yeah. So we'll see on Culture's channel in about, what, 7 hours, 8 hours? I don't know. It's supposed to be a nighttime show, but it's just barely evening where I'm at. So, and I know it's barely evening where Culture's at. So, but here's an intro as an outro. Hope you all have a great day. We'll catch you later.
Broken system chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street. Red and blue colors pouring from the sky. Debates turn to anger, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where we don't survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rotting greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need. Whispering conspiracies, drowning in their lies. Echoes of freedom, lost in cries. Spin the wheel of fate, let's see who rise. But this game will bleed you dry. Welcome to the bullpen, where we don't survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak don't survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
Hey, we should end it.
Yeah.